Chapter 28-21. Worshipping the new king 1-inch defend. Defend with all our might. Retreat. 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 Arg. Boom boom boom. On a planet in the north of the imperial dynasty, everyone looked to the right in a daze. The entire imperial dynasty had hundreds of billions of people and countless divine nations in the void. The sounds of fighting and killing could be heard incessantly. The vast army retreated towards the north. Behind them, Dragon Palace and Abyss species were chasing. They could clearly see a streak of blood in the void. The entire team slowly disappeared into the north, disappearing from everyone's sight. How many God Emperors are fighting with the Imperial Dynasty and Shaman Society God Emperors? Are they God Emperors from Dragon Palace? More than a dozen God Emperors. Dragon Palace has more than a dozen God Emperors. How is that possible? Imperial Dynasty and Shaman Society lost? Dragon Palace chased them for billions of miles? Dragon Palace has more than a dozen God Emperors? Would anyone believe that? If I didn't see it with my own eyes, I wouldn't believe it either. In the sky above the planet, countless people stood there and shouted in shock. The scene just now was too shocking. Dragon Palace is going to rise. A new king is going to be born. An elder murmured. Our Imperial Star region is going to change. Imperial Dynasty has fallen and Dragon Palace has a new king. Dragon Palace has more than a dozen God Emperors. They fought against Imperial Dynasty and Shaman Society alone, and chased disciples of Imperial Dynasty and Shaman Society for billions of miles. They are too powerful. SSS, the result of the war is out. Dragon Palace won and Imperial Dynasty and Shaman Society fled. Who would have thought that this would happen? This is terrible. Dragon Palace is leading the Abyss species to chase after the experts of Imperial Dynasty and Shaman Society. Very quickly, everyone on the planet uploaded the news to the artificial intelligence system in shock. Those who spread rumors should be killed. Even if you want to brag, you have to prepare. Do you know what it means to have more than a dozen God Emperors in Dragon Palace? Imperial Dynasty has existed for more than 600 million years, and they only had 5 God Emperors at most. In the entire Imperial Star region, including history, there are less than 6 God Emperors. You're pretty good at lying. What kind of strength would a wizard have? How can the Dragon Palace be a match for them if they can fight against at least 2 people of the same level? Putting everything else aside, the fact that the Dragon Palace has more than a dozen Emperor gods is an exaggeration. No, it's an exaggeration. It's the Dragon Palace that's fleeing now, right? When this news was first transmitted to the artificial intelligence system, there was not the slightest change on the faces of those who saw this news. It was obvious that the news was fake. This guy was too good at bragging. In the billions of years of history of the Imperial Star region, there were less than 20 God Emperors. There were no more than 6 God Emperors present at the same time. You said the Dragon Palace has more than a dozen God Emperors? Who would believe that? This was too fake. Almost no one believed this news. Even after hundreds of millions of people replied to these messages, no one believed it. Because there were trillions of people in the Imperial Star region, hundreds of millions of people replying was equivalent to a few people replying to 10,000 people. Not many people believed it. This made everyone on that planet feel helpless. The scene just now was so shocking that they didn't have time to take photos or videos. However, within a few hours this news appeared again. But this time there was a clear video. In the video, in the sky, the Dragon King of the Dragon Palace led more than a dozen Emperor gods to attack the Imperial Court Lord and the shamans of the Witch Association. Below, the experts of the Dragon Palace and countless Abyss species were chasing after the fleeing experts and disciples of the Imperial Court and the Witch Association. In the video, they could clearly hear the screams and cries of killing. They could see a long trail of blood in the void. It was a bloody path of escape. When everyone saw the video, their bodies trembled, and their faces were filled with disbelief. This is actually true. The Dragon Palace actually defeated the Imperial Court and the Sorcerer Association. Those are 2 peak forces. Hiss, the Dragon Palace has more than a dozen Emperor gods. That's 2 peak forces. The Dragon Palace has more than a dozen Emperor gods. That's more than a dozen. The Dragon Palace is heaven-defying. The Imperial Court and the others have fled. In the future, the Imperial Star region will belong to the Dragon Palace. The Dragon Palace is the king. Countless people widened their eyes and growled. They stared at the artificial intelligence system, their bodies trembling. The Dragon Palace defied the heavens and achieved the throne. They knew that the sky of the Imperial Star region was about to change. Everyone was amazed by the power of the Dragon Palace. To be able to fight against the Imperial Court and the Shaman Association alone, this power made one tremble. Time passed slowly. More and more news of the Dragon Palace hunting down the Imperial Court and the Shaman Guild came. They were all from some planets in the north of the Imperial Court's territory. More and more videos were posted on AI. This shocking scene caused everyone to be dumbfounded. Over the next 2 days, there were more and more of these videos. At this time, the people of the Imperial Star region also discovered that there were more and more of them. The Dragon Palace had led the Abyss species to chase after the Imperial Court and the Witch Association. They had already chased after half of the Imperial Court. They chased after him for billions of miles. From the time the videos were released, everyone in the Imperial Star region could see that the number of strong disciples of the Imperial Court was decreasing rapidly. No one could imagine how many people the Imperial Court had lost in this battle. This path of escape was also known as the Bloody Path. According to the latest news, the entire Night Clan has fled to the south of Cold Night Island. They should have already escaped the Imperial Star region. Not long after, a piece of news came from Cold Night Island. Cold Night Island was the headquarters of the Night Clan. It was also a faction that had existed for hundreds of millions of years. Their ancestor was a god emperor. Not long ago, another god emperor had been born and pushed the Night Clan to the peak. However, because they had offended the Dragon King, the Arch-Night God had become the fastest god emperor to fall. Now, after learning that the Dragon Palace had defeated the Witch Association and had more than a dozen god emperors, they had immediately fled. They knew that if they didn't flee, they might be killed. After all, the Arch-Night God had killed the Dragon King's disciple. Once this news came out, everyone could feel that the sky of the Imperial Star region had really changed. The Dragon Palace would be the master of the Imperial Star region in the future. With more than a dozen god emperors, the Dragon Palace would have prestige that would far surpass the Imperial Court. Looking at the Imperial Star region, who would dare to disobey? Order all the experts of the large sects to bring most of the treasures in our treasury to the center of the Imperial Court Island, and prepare to greet the new king. Bring all the disciples and gifts. Our Broken Sky sect will immediately head to the Imperial Court Island to greet the new king. On the Evil Demon Island, the two large sects, the Nine Firmaments and Broken Sky sect, saw the videos. They couldn't sit still anymore. They immediately brought large amounts of treasures to the Imperial Court Island to greet the new king. Chapter 28-22. According to the news from the Demon Islands, the Nine Heavens sect, the Heaven-Shattering sect, and the other factions on the Demon Islands are heading to the Monarch Court Island to welcome the Dragon King and the others, and to pay their respects to the new emperor. Within the Imperial Court's territory, some consul who weren't taken away by the Imperial Court are heading to the Imperial Court's islands. They're probably going to meet the new king. The Imperial Star region has completely changed. I think all the powerful forces will have to pay a visit to the Dragon Palace. The Dragon Palace is too strong. They have a dozen god emperors. If the Dragon Palace wants to unify the entire Imperial Star region, no force would dare to oppose it. This is a position that was won with strength. Now, who would dare to be arrogant in front of the Dragon Palace? The news of Jiao Shao Tian shattering, and the other factions, heading to the Imperial Court's island, was immediately sent to the AI. No one else in the Imperial Star region was surprised by their actions. The current Dragon Palace was too terrifying. After the Imperial Court and the Witch Association were chased by the Dragon Palace and fled to the Heaven Witch territory, which force in the entire Imperial Star region would dare to jump around in front of the Dragon Palace? The Night Clan on the Cold Night Island fled in fear. The other forces did not offend the Dragon Palace, so they naturally went to curry favor with it. Otherwise, the Dragon Palace could easily send a god emperor to annihilate a sect in the future. Stop! While the entire Imperial Star Domain was in an uproar and shocked, Wang Xian, who was in the void of the Imperial Star Domain, stared ahead and said, they had been chasing for 4 days, and during these 4 days, many Imperial Dynasty experts had died. The weaklings of the Imperial Dynasty were basically all killed. From the center of the Imperial Court Island to here. If they continued to chase, they might reach the Heavenly Witch Domain. After 4 days of chasing, only the Imperial Dynasty experts survived. Even the weaker ones were now in the divine kingdoms of these powerhouses. If he continued to chase after them, he wouldn't be able to kill too many people. As soon as he finished his sentence, the members of Dragon Palace stopped their attacks. Roving Heavens, Roving Xingmu, and the rest also stopped pestering the Emperor Lord of the Imperial Court. Hoo. Seeing Wang Xian and the rest stop, the Emperor panted heavily and stared at Wang Xian with his blood-red eyes. Hee, what's the use of staring at me? Didn't I chase you for 4 days? You still have to get out of the Imperial Star Zone and become a stray dog. He looked at the Emperor Lord of the Imperial Court and said mockingly. Hoo. The Emperor of the Imperial Court clenched his fists and gritted his teeth. He didn't say anything. Because in these 4 days, he had gone berserk and angry. But it was all to no avail. Woo. At the side, Little Blue and the Emperor God Abyssal Seed roared, and all the other Abyssal Seeds stopped attacking. Hoo. Finally, I survived. They stopped chasing. At the front, all the experts and disciples of the Imperial Court only dared to turn around and shout in fear when they saw that the Abyss species and the Dragon Palace had stopped their attacks and continued flying forward for a few minutes. Their gazes swept across their companions, and their bodies trembled slightly. These 4 days were hell for them. None of them would ever forget what had happened in the past 4 days. I'm warning the Imperial Court and the Shaman Association. In the future, the Imperial Star Zone will be the territory of the Dragon Palace. Anyone who trespasses will be killed without mercy. Let's go. Wang Xian swept his gaze across the surroundings and let out a hearty laugh. Then he flew towards the back. He was just saying it casually. In the future, when the Imperial Court and the Shaman Association had the strength, they would definitely attack. However, before that, the Dragon Palace might attack the Sky Shaman region in advance. He turned and flew out, and all the members of the Dragon Palace followed behind. Countless Abyss species roared and followed behind. Everyone from the Imperial Court and the Shaman Association trembled as they watched the Dragon Palace and the Dragon King leave. Their eyes were filled with a deep hatred of blood. Emperor Lord, let's go back. We need to discuss some things at length. The sorcerer's eyes flickered as he watched the people from the Dragon Palace leave. This was their first battle with the Dragon Palace and the Sky Formation God Emperor, and they had lost the first battle. Not long in the future, there would be another battle, a decisive battle. At that time, either the Shaman Association would perish, or the Dragon Palace and the Sky Formation God Emperor would perish. As the leader of an apex force, he knew this wasn't the time to be frustrated or afraid. Instead, he had to prepare for revenge at all costs. Let's go. The Emperor of the Imperial Court closed his eyes and hesitated for a few seconds before opening them and replying expressionlessly. They were all top geniuses and legendary existences in this dazzling starry sky. They had their own tenacity and temperament. Everyone from the Imperial Court followed the Shaman Association to the Sky Shaman region. This also represented the complete alliance between the two major forces. Perhaps they would only end their alliance after the Dragon Palace was destroyed. Dragon King, the entire Imperial Court, and the entire Imperial Star region will belong to the Dragon Palace. Prime Minister Turtle roared with excitement and agitation in the starry sky. Yes, the entire Imperial Court and the entire Imperial Star region will belong to the Dragon Palace. At this moment, Wang Xian was in high spirits. This was the entire Imperial Star region. Even if he flew from the east to the west, it would take him a few months to cover such a vast region. Such a vast starry sky was all the territory of the Dragon Palace. In the past, the Dragon Palace controlled an ocean. Now it was a sea of stars. Qingyue, let Xiaolan and the rest send the abyss species into the abyss. Tell them that the abyss is their territory now, and they are forbidden from invading other places. Wang Xian looked at Qingyue and instructed her. Yes, Xiao Xian. Lan Qingyue nodded. Wang Xian did not kill all the abyss species. Although they had no intelligence and only knew how to kill, they were still comrades in the two wars. Although he could obtain a lot of resources by killing them, he did not do so. An enemy was an enemy. No matter how holy or kind the other party was, an enemy was an enemy. A friend was a friend, even if the other party had no intelligence. Let's go back to the Dragon Palace immediately, Wang Xian said to all the members of the Dragon Palace. Yes, Dragon King. The group of disciples of the Dragon Palace roared excitedly and disappeared instantly. Buzz, buzz, buzz. In the next moment, everyone returned to the main Dragon Palace. Prime Minister Turtle, move the main Dragon Palace to the ocean on the island of the Imperial Court and start counting the spoils of war. Wang Xian ordered Prime Minister Turtle after returning to the Dragon Palace. Yes, Dragon King. Prime Minister Turtle nodded. Wang Xian moved and arrived at the Dragon Palace on the central island of the Imperial Court through the teleportation formation. Xiao Xian. Xiao Xian. As soon as he arrived, a group of girls sensed his aura. They flew over and shouted happily. Great victory, ladies. From now on, the entire Imperial Court and the entire Imperial Star region will be the territory of the Dragon Palace. Wang Xian spread his arms and said happily, the error-free chapters of the Invincible Divine Dragon Cultivation System will continue to be updated on the mobile game bar. There will be no advertisements on the website. Please collect and recommend the mobile game bar. Please collect those who like the Invincible Divine Dragon Cultivation System. The Invincible Divine Dragon Cultivation System is updated the fastest in the mobile game bar. Chapter 28-23. Great! The girls' faces were filled with excitement. They were already very happy that the entire Imperial Court Island belonged to the Dragon Palace, not to mention the entire Imperial Star region. Ha ha! Your Majesty the Great Dragon King, when the Dragon Palace controls the Imperial Star region in the future, can you give me a high position? Give me some titles. For example, the Star Goddess of the Imperial Star Domain, the little goddess who is as beautiful as a fairy, the most beautiful female singer in the Imperial Star Domain, the lovable and adorable Imperial Star Daughter? The Emperor Star Princess said excitedly. The Imperial Court had been defeated, the Dragon Palace had become the king, and the Imperial Star region belonged to the Dragon Palace. Who in the Imperial Star region would dare to provoke her, the Emperor Star Daughter? In the future, she could do whatever she wanted. Hee. Wang Xian looked at her and smiled. That will depend on your performance. Dragon King, the Nine Heavens Great Sect and Heaven-Shattering Great Sect are requesting an audience. At this time, a civil servant of the Dragon Palace suddenly flew over and reported to Wang Xian. Alright, let's deal with some business first. Once we're done, we'll have time to wander around the Imperial Star region, said Wang Xian to the girls. Yes, we have to. There are too few people on the Imperial Court Island. We have to import all the famous food and clothing from the Imperial Star region. Feng Wan said with a smile. Right, let's make the Imperial Court Island more lively. The girls immediately said with anticipation. As an Imperial Court Island, as long as the Dragon Palace gave the word, countless people would swarm over. After all, as the center of the Imperial Star region, the resources, spirit chi, and living conditions here were the best in the entire Imperial Star region. In the past, those who wanted to enter the Imperial Court Island were either disciples of the Imperial Court or experts. Crash! As the group spoke, Wang Xian and the rest flew out of the sea. Wang Xian swept his gaze across the surrounding mountains and rivers with a smile on his face. In the future, this will no longer be the Imperial Court Island, but the Dragon Island, he said with a smile on his face. Let's go and take a look. Wang Xian was all smiles as he flew towards the center of the vast palace. Dragon King. As soon as they arrived above the vast palace, Tianjun greeted them with a smile. How are the people from the Witchcraft Association? He asked with a smile. On the third day of your pursuit, Dragon King, they teleported back to their own divine kingdom. Tianjun said with a smile. Dragon King. A group of forces wants to pay a visit to Dragon King. They say that they will be loyal to Dragon Palace in the future and listen to our orders. They have brought a lot of treasures and are waiting in front. Tianjun came to Wang Xian's side and continued. Let's go and take a look. We don't have many people on Dragon Island now. Let's lure some people over and let them manage it. Wang Xian nodded his head slightly, after which he looked at Feng Wan and the other girls. From now on, you guys will be in charge of managing Dragon Island, and even the Imperial Star region. You guys can do whatever you want, he said with a smile. Wang Xian did not want to ask any questions. Moreover, Feng Wan was once an empress. It shouldn't be a problem for her to manage some matters. Although the current domain was hundreds of millions, or even billions of times more powerful than before, it was still far more powerful than before. But they could manage it however they wanted. Who would have a problem with that? Hee alright. The girls nodded happily. It was fun to be a dignified hostess once in a while. Wow, Qingyue Inxian, give me a few hundred titles when the time comes, ha ha ha. The Emperor Star Lady's exaggerated and excited laughter could be heard. Dragon Island is a good name. It's good to let the Dragon Queens manage the Imperial Star region in the future. Tianjun smiled and sucked up to them. He was in a good mood. Now that he had recovered more than half of his strength and defeated the Witchcraft Association, he was elated. As long as his strength recovered to its peak, and the Dragon Palace's strength increased a little, he would be able to attack the Witchcraft Association, eliminate the traitors, and annihilate that group of people. Dragon King. Rumble. In front, a huge door was pushed open by the members of the Dragon Palace. Wang Xian and the rest walked over. The entire vast palace was tens of thousands of meters tall. Walking in here was extremely awe-inspiring. The floor, the walls, every inch, and every building was filled with art and luxury. The Dragon King is here. The Dragon King and the rest are here. Even the Sky Array God Emperor is here. At this time, in a public square in front of the vast palace, tens of millions of experts and disciples stood there. In the center, experts and disciples from the Crescent Sect, North Chuan Sect, Dragon Python Group, and Ancient God Dynasty stood there. On both sides, experts and disciples from the Nine Heavens Heaven-Breaking Sect and other forces stood there. Seeing the Dragon King and the rest coming over, they were all in awe. Defeating the Imperial Court, resisting the Witchcraft Association, and chasing the Witchcraft Association for hundreds of millions of kilometers. To them, the current Dragon Palace was invincible. Facing such an invincible existence, they did not dare to be impudent or disrespectful. Greetings, Dragon King. Congratulations to the Dragon Palace for controlling the Imperial Star region. Greetings, Dragon King. Congratulations to the Dragon Palace for controlling the Imperial Star region. When Wang Xian and the rest came to the front, the experts from the Crescent Sect, the Nine Heavens Sect, and the Heavens Heaven-Breaking Sect knelt on the ground and shouted. Behind them, all the disciples quickly knelt on the ground and paid their respects. Kneeling and paying their respects. Even the two old ancestors of the Nine Heavens Sect, peak Divine King existences. Even at this moment, they did not have the slightest dissatisfaction. The Dragon King of the Dragon Palace was worthy of such respect. Rise! Wang Xian swept his gaze across all of them. With a wave of his arm, a mighty force made them all stand up. Thank you, Dragon King. Everyone immediately stood up respectfully. Reporting to the Dragon King, the Nine Heavens Sect is willing to listen to the Dragon Palace's orders in the future. Today, we will contribute half of the Nine Heavens treasure vault. The old ancestors of the Nine Heavens Sect said respectfully as soon as they stood up. Reporting to the Dragon King, the Heavens Heaven-Breaking Sect will definitely listen to the Dragon King's orders in the future. We will contribute millions of years of accumulation. Congratulations to the Dragon Palace for defeating the Imperial Court and the Witchcraft Association. Congratulations to the Dragon King for becoming an emperor. Congratulations to the Dragon Palace for controlling the Imperial Star region. The sect leader of the Heaven's heaven-breaking sect, and the rest immediately stood up and said respectfully, "All right, thank you for your kind intentions." Wang Xian nodded his head with a smile. The Nine Heavens heaven-breaking sect had no grudges with the Dragon Palace. The Dragon Palace would naturally accept their surrender. Now that the Imperial Court Island is controlled by the Dragon Palace, there will be no more Imperial Court Island in the future. It will be changed to the Dragon Island. The Dragon Island is huge, but there are only 400,000 to 500,000 disciples in the Dragon Palace. The Dragon Palace will accept a batch of people into the Dragon Island. Beichuan Sect, Moon Sect, Ancient God Dynasty, Dragon Python Group, move your disciples here. Nine Heavens heaven-breaking sect, and the rest of the forces, move your disciples here as well. We will discuss the details later. Wang Xian said plainly. Thank you, Dragon King. Thank you, Dragon King. Hearing Wang Xian's words, everyone quickly knelt on the ground and bowed again with excitement. Chapter 28-24. King of Bison 4-inch. From today onwards, Imperial Court Island will be changed to Dragon Island. From today onwards, there will be no more Imperial Court Island. All disciples of the North River Sect, Moon Sect, Ancient God Dynasty, and Dragon Python Corporation will move to Dragon Island. In the future, they will assist the Dragon Queen in managing the Imperial Star region. The elite core disciples of the Nine Heavens, Shattering Heavens, and the other factions can also settle down on the Dragon Island. The Dragon Palace will be recruiting talented people to settle on the Dragon Island. Soon a few messages came from the Dragon Palace on the AI. First, no one in the Imperial Star region was surprised that the Imperial Court Island had been renamed to Dragon Island. After all, the Imperial Dynasty had been defeated, and the Dragon Palace had taken over all the territories of the Imperial Dynasty. They couldn't use the name of the Imperial Dynasty Island. The next few messages made everyone extremely envious. However, the last piece of information also caused many people's hearts to burn with passion. The great sects of the Moon, the North River Sect, the Ancient God Dynasty, and the Dragon Python Corporation have won the bet. They have always been on the side of the Dragon Palace. They are the subjects of the dragon. Now all their disciples can settle on the Dragon Island. This is like reaching the heavens in a single bound. Jiu Shaotian's group is not bad either. All of their elite core disciples can live on Dragon Island. You should know that Dragon Island is the most abundant spiritual energy in the entire Imperial Star region. The entire Dragon Palace seems to have only 400,000 to 500,000 members. The entire Dragon Island can accommodate at least a few 100 billion people. I really envy Beichuan Zong and the others. I heard from the disciples of the Beichuan sect that the Dragon King will not be managing the Imperial Star region in the future. Instead, it will be handed over to the Dragon Queens of the Dragon Palace. The Dragon Palace is recruiting talented people. I heard that these talented people are from all walks of life and are good at cooking food. They will also have the opportunity to settle on the Dragon Island. I'm preparing to go to the Dragon Island. There are a lot of places to live on the Dragon Island. I hope to settle down there. It's the core of the entire Imperial Star region. After the shock of the Dragon Palace defeating the Imperial Court and the Sorcerer Association, everyone started discussing the Dragon Palace's next move. These decisions and actions concerned the fate of many people in the Imperial Star region. Especially after these few pieces of news came out, the entire AI system was discussing it. Many wealthy merchants and experts felt a burning desire in their hearts. They wanted to settle down on the Dragon Island. Do whatever you want. It had been 3 days since the last visit from the various forces. In a vast palace on the Dragon Island, Wang Xian was a little speechless as he spoke to the group of girls in front of him. Hee. Then let's rebuild the Dragon Phoenix God Dynasty and make our divine dynasty famous in the Imperial Star domain. Guan Xuqing and the others said excitedly. In front of them were the sect master of Beichuan sect, the patriarch of the Moon sect, and the experts of the Dragon Python group of the Ancient God Dynasty. Something that none of them had expected happened. They all knew that there were only hundreds of thousands of disciples in Dragon Palace. They thought that the Dragon Palace would recruit experts, but it turned out that it did not. Furthermore, in the future, the Dragon King would no longer care about the Imperial Star region or the matters of the Dragon Islands. He would leave them to the Dragon Queens. The behavior of the Dragon Queens left them at a loss as to what to do. The Dragon Queens were preparing to establish a divine dynasty, the Dragon Phoenix God Dynasty. Build a divine dynasty. Now forces at the level of the Moon sect were no longer constrained by the titles of sects, divine dynasties, and corporations. Instead, he went straight to the moon, 9 firmaments, and heaven-shattering. However, the Dragon Queens were going to establish a divine dynasty. The Dragon Phoenix God Dynasty had a group of Dragon Queens as its empress. If the Dragon Queens want to establish a divine dynasty, we are willing to join the Dragon Phoenix God Dynasty and follow the orders of the Dragon Queens. However, the experts of the Moon sect immediately said with a smile, "What a joke!" The Dragon Queens were building a divine dynasty on Dragon Island in the Imperial Star region. What was wrong with that? The Dragon Queens, especially Dragon Queen Lan Qingyue, had 2 God Emperor level battle pets. The rest of the Dragon Queens and the God Emperors of the Dragon Palace also bowed respectfully. They had thought that the Sky Array God Emperor, as a great emperor who had fallen millions of years ago, would have a similar status as the Dragon King. They thought that he would join the Dragon Palace as a form of cooperation, but then they realized that they were wrong. The Sky Array God was a member of the Dragon Palace, a subordinate of the Dragon King. His status might be high, but not as high as the Dragon Queens. Putting everything else aside, who would object when the Dragon Queens said that they wanted to establish a divine dynasty and control the Imperial Star region? Who would dare to object? Moreover, if the 9 firmaments heaven-shattering sect knew about the divine dynasty the Dragon Queens were going to establish, they would want to kneel and lick their boots. Naturally, they would not let go of this opportunity. All right, since you have taken over the territory of the Imperial Court, you must manage it well. The Dragon Palace cannot send anyone to manage it. You will be in charge of some issues. When Feng Wuan heard their words, she immediately nodded. It was difficult to manage such a huge territory, but fortunately, they only needed to follow the rules of the Imperial Court. With a complete set of laws, there was no need for them to waste their energy. They just needed to supervise. Sister Feng Wuan, I also want the title of Empress. How about Star Empress? At this moment, the Emperor Star Princess suddenly said, "No, you're too weak." Without waiting for Feng Wuan to respond, Wang Xian spoke up. Feng Wuan, Guan Shuqing, and the rest had the combat power of a 9th Order Immortal God King. It was fine for them to call themselves Empress. But the Emperor Star Princess was only a 1st Order Immortal God King. She was going to call herself Empress just like that? Why can't I? Can't you just increase my strength a little? The Emperor Star Princess said unhappily. Sure. We just need to agree. We'll get Xiao Xian to increase your strength in a few days. Lan Qingyue and Tang Yinxian held onto the Emperor Star Princess's arm and smiled. Hehe, Qingyue and Yinxian are the best. The Emperor Star Princess said happily. Bei Shuang, are you coming too? Feng Wuan smiled at Bei Shuang. It's all right, mistress. I won't be joining in the fun. Bei Shuang shook her head and smiled. Old ancestor you? Clan leader Bei Chuan, and the rest of the experts twitched their mouths. It was no exaggeration to say that the Dragon Palace's influence had enveloped the entire Imperial Star domain. Now that the Dragon Phoenix God Dynasty was established, it meant that the Dragon Phoenix God Dynasty was in charge of the Imperial Star domain. The highest authority of such a force was being treated like a child's play, making the Emperor Star Princess the Empress? Many people in the Imperial Star domain knew the Emperor Star Princess. She was only a 1st Order Immortal God King, and she wanted to be the Empress. What else could they say? They could only say that the Empress was devastatingly beautiful. It couldn't be helped. With the Dragon Palace behind her, there wouldn't be any problems, even if the Dragon Queens caused trouble. After all, the might of the Dragon Palace had suppressed the entire void. Chapter 28-25. The Dragon Phoenix God Dynasty has been established. From today on, the Dragon Phoenix God Dynasty will take over all the planets within the Imperial Court's territory and oversee the entire Imperial Star Domain. A month later, the Dragon Phoenix God Dynasty will hold its founding ceremony. The Imperial Star Domain had calmed down after the war. Amidst the silence, everyone was waiting for news from Dragon Island. This news might concern many people and hundreds of billions of habitable planets. Not long after, a statement came from the Dragon Palace. When everyone saw the news, they were slightly stunned. What's going on? Dragon Phoenix God Dynasty? The Dragon Palace has established a dynasty? What's going on? Why did the Dragon Palace establish a force? Looking at this announcement, everyone's faces were filled with astonishment. What was going on with the Dragon Phoenix God Dynasty? The Dragon King doesn't manage the Imperial Star Domain. The Dragon Phoenix God Dynasty was established by a group of Dragon Queens. The Moon Sect, the Nine Clouds Sect, the Heaven-Breaking Sect, the North Stream Sect, the Dragon Python Group, and the Ancient God Dynasty have all joined the Dragon Phoenix God Dynasty to assist the Dragon Phoenix God Dynasty. The Dragon Queen will hold the founding ceremony in a month. The Dragon King seems to have something to announce then. Soon, some news came from the North Stream Sect and the Moon Sect. The Dragon Queen is the Dragon Queen. Our Imperial Star Domain is being taken over by the Dragon Queen? This is the first time in the history of the Imperial Star Domain is being controlled by a woman. I guess the Dragon Queen doesn't want to be in charge, so the Dragon Queen established the dynasty. But I really envy the Dragon Queen of the Dragon Palace. She's the Empress of the Imperial Star Domain. The Dragon Queen of the Dragon Palace is a top expert. After all, they are the Dragon King's women. Also, you should know that the Dragon Queen in the Abyss has 2 Emperor-level battle pets. Her strength is unfathomable. The founding ceremony will be held in a month. All the rulers of the planets will be there to pay their respects. I wonder if we can make it. Everyone was talking about it when the news came out. The rulers of some planets, and some small forces, immediately prepared to go to the Dragon Island. Prime Minister Turtle, how was the battle? At the same time, in the main Dragon Palace on the Dragon Island, Wuxia had just moved the main Dragon Palace from the Abyss to this place. He had been busy for the past few days, so he had yet to understand what he had gained from the battle with the Imperial Court Witchcraft Association. Dragon King, we didn't get much this time. There are only 11 Undying God King corpses. However, in this battle, we obtained a few treasures. The Divine Flame Star, the Heaven and Earth Divine 3 Nets, and the Supremacy Scar. The Supremacy Scar is currently in the Heaven Formation, and he is currently studying it. Prime Minister Turtle immediately reported, 11? That's enough to increase the fighting power of 1 Emperor God. These treasures are equivalent to the fighting power of 4 Emperor Gods. Wuxia smiled. Compared to the battle in the Abyss, his gains were much lesser. However, this was still a considerable harvest. Take out some resources to raise the Emperor Star Maiden's strength to the 9th Order Immortal God King realm. The Dragon Phoenix God Dynasty is established, and she can't be too weak as an Empress. Wuxia instructed Prime Minister Turtle. It's Dragon King. Prime Minister Turtle nodded. Do you have a rough estimate of the development of the domain and the income of resources? Wuxia asked after pondering for a moment. Now he had taken over the entire Imperial Star region and controlled hundreds of billions of habitable planets. These habitable planets were an enormous source of resources. Just the taxes alone were a considerable amount of resources. It's only a rough estimate. However, just a day's worth of taxes is a terrifying figure. A day's worth of resources is enough to raise 1,000 Dragon Palace members to the Emperor God realm. In addition, the Imperial Court didn't take the main server of the artificial intelligence system away. The Heavenly Array changed the core data and took over the artificial intelligence system. This amount of resources is comparable to a day's worth of taxes. Prime Minister Turtle said. In other words, a day's worth of resources can raise the Dragon Palace by 2,000 Emperor Gods? Wuxia raised his eyebrows and revealed a smile on his face. Yes, Dragon King. This is just a conservative estimate. Prime Minister Turtle nodded. It seems like the Dragon Palace will have to add more members this time. Wang Xian said with a smile. Yes, Dragon King. I suggest doubling the number of members of the Dragon Palace to 1 million. With our current power and influence, it will be easy for us to recruit talented disciples, said Wang Xian. Prime Minister Turtle nodded. As long as the Dragon Palace announced the recruitment, all the marine creatures in the entire Imperial Star region would swarm over. We'll announce it at the establishment ceremony of the Dragon Phoenix God Dynasty. Wang Xian nodded his head slightly. Yes, Dragon King. Prime Minister Turtle nodded. After reporting a few more questions, he immediately left. Wang Xian moved and came to the office of the future Empress of the Dragon Phoenix God Dynasty. The girls were looking at the map and discussing some issues of the Imperial Star region. They didn't even pay much attention to his arrival. He smiled after seeing them. It's good to find something for them to do. As the days passed, the Dragon Island became more and more lively. Last month, the migration of all the disciples from Beichuan sect made the Dragon Island no longer empty. More and more people came from other planets in the Imperial Star region to attend the establishment ceremony of the Dragon Phoenix God Dynasty. With so many habitable planets, the entire planet would be very lively if only a few hundred people came to each planet. Later on, if not for the restriction of entry, the Dragon Island might have been congested. Wang Xian was happy to see such a lively scene. The girls were busy all day, preparing for the establishment ceremony of the Dragon Phoenix God Dynasty. Wang Xian, on the other hand, was free. He strolled around the Dragon Island and studied the treasures with the heavenly formation. The treasure he got from the Witchcraft Association, the Mark of the Venerable One. In the words of the heavenly formation, this was a very precious treasure. The Mark of a Venerable. Its material is a treasure refined from the skin of a universe warrior. The Mark of the Venerable One was the skin of a Venerable One. That was a realm above the Void God Emperor. An expert of this level was still a little far from the Dragon Palace. Dragon King. Tomorrow is the establishment ceremony of the Dragon Phoenix God Dynasty. Do you want to make some preparations? Prime Minister Turtle informed him of a month's time soon passed. So soon? How are the preparations on Shuqing's side? Wang Xian was slightly stunned. He forgot about the time and asked with a smile. Dragon King, the Dragon Queen is ready. The Dragon Guards of the Dragon Palace and the Heaven's Eye Arrow Unit have been assigned by the Dragon Queen to be her guards. Orochi and the rest have also been asked by the Dragon Queen to support the scene. Prime Minister Turtle said with a smile. Hee, we'll be the last to go tomorrow. Let them enjoy being an empress. Wang Xian said with a smile. Chapter 28-26. The ceremony below. The establishment ceremony of the Dragon and Phoenix God Dynasty is about to begin. It's about to begin. The vast palace is open. This is my first time here. I feel so tiny in front of it. Everyone please enter. Don't make any noise. Otherwise, you will be punished for contempt. The next morning was also known as the first day of the Dragon and Phoenix calendar in the Imperial Star region. The day of the establishment ceremony. Countless experts and forces from the Imperial Star region walked into the vast palace in front of the inner island of the Dragon Island. Everyone was dressed extravagantly. Not a single one of them was an ordinary person. Jiu Xiaotian and Yu Guang, who were standing on both sides, reminded everyone. The slightly noisy voices disappeared, and everyone looked around, their faces filled with shock. In the past, they weren't qualified to enter the vast palace. Now that they were standing on the path of the vast palace, they felt extremely tiny. About a few billion people walked in with a hint of shock, a hint of curiosity, and a hint of awe. The establishment ceremony of the Dragon and Phoenix God Dynasty was broadcasted live by the artificial intelligence system. Only billions of people were qualified to enter the vast palace and watch it in person. Billions of people walked through a large gate. In front of them was a large square. At the front of the square were 9 incomparably huge pillars. Divine dragons of different attributes occupied the pillars. Each pillar was 100,000 meters tall and pierced through the clouds. It looked majestic and spectacular. The most elite disciples of Jiu Shao and the other forces were lined up neatly around the square. All of their God King powerhouses were present. They were dressed neatly with the words Dragon and Phoenix written on their chests. The powerful aura caused everyone's heart to tremble slightly. After all, Jiu Shao Tian and Yu Guang were the three most powerful forces in the Imperial Star region. However, a row of swordsmen stood neatly at the front. The golden sword had an expressionless face, and a cold aura emanated from its body. Behind them, there was another group of people. They had long arms and carried longbows on their backs. Their gazes were incomparably sharp. That's an expert from Dragon Palace. Such a cold aura. It's the Dragon Guards of the Dragon Palace. The Dragon Guards are the personal guards of the Dragon King. Those archers are the arrow department of the Dragon Palace. Every member of the arrow department is an expert above the God King realm. Every archer can instantly kill enemies within 100 million kilometers. When the chasm battlefield broke out, the arrow department of the Dragon Palace killed countless abyss species. This is the elite power of the Dragon Palace, the power to defeat the Imperial Court Witches Association. Just that aura alone is terrifying. When everyone slowly entered the square, they were slightly taken aback when they saw the Dragon Guards and the members of the Heaven's Eye Arrow Unit. Stand properly. Right at this moment, a voice that contained boundless dignity resounded in the minds of every single one of them. Everyone couldn't help but shiver slightly, and they opened their eyes wide while extreme terror filled their hearts. This was the voice of the God Emperor. Everyone turned to look at the source of the voice, their eyes filled with awe. There were 11 chairs placed in the center, and 2 old men stood on either side of the 11 chairs. They were dressed meticulously in black divine dragon attire. They stood there quietly, and one look at them would make one's heart palpitate and panic. God King experts couldn't give people this kind of feeling. 2 God Emperors. 2 God Emperors of the Dragon Palace. Everyone's pupils shrank slightly, and they hurriedly stood neatly in order, not daring to move. What a joke. Even if the God Emperor didn't look over, he could still know what everyone was doing. Everyone was present, and they stood there quietly. The scene in the square was also displayed on the artificial intelligence system. Countless people were staring at the artificial intelligence system. As the founding ceremony of the Dragon Phoenix God Dynasty, as the future master of the entire Imperial Star region, they were naturally very concerned. Stand properly. Stand properly. At this moment, the screen on the artificial intelligence system was filled with these 4 words. The screen was filled with these 4 words, because these 4 words were also the 4 words that Orochi had said. The people of the Imperial Star region could also tell that this was the God Emperor. Woo woo. Woo woo. Time passed bit by bit. Everyone stood there, not daring to speak. 5 minutes later there was a roar. It was vast and majestic. Everyone heard this sound and looked at the sky in unison. The voice was filled with joy. No one doubted that if this voice was filled with violence and anger, they would be killed by this voice. 2 behemoths appeared. One was more than 100 kilometers long, and the other was 70 or 80 kilometers long. They were real star beasts. Many people hadn't seen Little Blue and Little Mansion before. When they saw the 2 beasts that could cover the sky, their eyes widened in shock. Little Blue and Little Mansion appeared, and they quickly arrived in the sky above the palace in front of the square. Oh my God! Are those the 2 battle pets of the Dragon Queen? This beast can kill all of us with a sneeze, right? Some people couldn't help but growl. They also widened their eyes in front of the artificial intelligence system. Even though they weren't there to see it, they could feel the vastness and savageness of the beast through the artificial intelligence system. The Dragon Queen is on that beast. At this moment, everyone saw 10 beautiful figures standing on the beast. Buzz! Buzz! In the next moment, 10 figures floated in the air and flew towards the location below. Phoenix robes. The 10 figures were dressed in phoenix robes, exuding a noble and holy aura. At the same time, they were also giving off a powerful aura. That was the aura of a peak stage God King, or a 9th Order God King. The 10 figures landed in front of the phoenix chairs in front of the square. Welcome to the Dragon Phoenix God Dynasty's founding ceremony. Feng Wuan glanced at everyone in front of her. She had the demeanor of a female empress, as she took 2 steps forward and said, "The Dragon Phoenix God Dynasty will take over all the territories of the Imperial Court, including the Pingy Island, the Cold Night Island, and the Demon Island. The Dragon Phoenix God Dynasty will set up 11 female empresses to manage the Imperial Star region together." Feng Wuan introduced the entire Dragon Phoenix God Dynasty and announced one thing after another. When everyone heard that the Dragon Phoenix God Dynasty had set up 11 female empresses, they were slightly surprised. That's the Emperor Star Lady. That's the Star Goddess. Soon, many people in the Imperial Court realized that the former Star Goddess was also one of the female empresses. SSS, do you feel the power of the Star Goddess? What realm is that? It's so terrifying. She's a 9th Order God King, a 9th Order God King. How old is the Star Goddess? How could she have such terrifying power? This. Soon, people noticed the Emperor Star Lady's power and were filled with disbelief. Chapter 28-27. The Emperor Star Lady's strength has actually reached the 9th Order God King realm. How is this possible? A month ago, she was clearly only a 1st Order God King realm cultivator. So terrifying, so terrifying. Did the Dragon King help her raise her strength? That's far too monstrous. In just a month, he has surpassed the strength that many God Kings could not achieve even after cultivating for millions of years, or even millions of years. In the surroundings of the plaza, the old ancestors of the Northern Stream sect and the other factions felt the Emperor Star Lady's strength. Their eyes widened in shock. A month ago, they clearly knew that the Emperor Star Lady was only a 1st Order God King. But now, she had reached the 9th Order God King realm? Wasn't this increase in strength too terrifying? Many experts couldn't even reach the 9th Order God King realm after millions of years of cultivation. But now, she had reached such a terrifying level in a month. Was this the strength of the Dragon Palace? Was this the reason why the Dragon Palace could rise so quickly? But this was too heaven-defying. In the plaza, everyone in the Imperial Star region was also shocked. 10 of the 11 empresses had arrived, and the weakest among them was a 9th Order God King. Such strength was worthy of the title of Empress in the current Imperial Star domain. Initially, he didn't take the Empress seriously and thought that she had relied on the Dragon King to become the Empress. But now, he completely dispelled that thought. She's indeed the Dragon King's woman. There's no one more noble and pure than the Empress in the entire Imperial Star domain. She's too beautiful. She's like a fairy from the 9 heavens. We can only look at her from afar in awe. The Empresses are so beautiful. They must be kind-hearted. Our lives will be better in the future. The citizens of the Imperial Star domain started to bootlick the Empresses. Perhaps it wasn't bootlick either. This was what they thought from the bottom of their hearts. After all, to them, such a pure and noble goddess must be perfect. Boom, boom, boom. Dazzling fireworks bloomed in the sky above the Dragon Island. The fireworks in the shape of dragons and phoenixes bloomed in the sky for a long time. Wang, Guan Shuqing, Feng Wuan, Lan Qingyue, and the rest of the girls stood on the 11 seats at the front of the ceremony. They were all smiles as they looked forward. At this time, Wang Xian walked to the side, and the girls stood up with a smile. "I have something to announce," said Wang Xian to the group of girls as he looked at everyone in the public square. "The Dragon King is here. Greetings, Dragon King. Greetings, Dragon King." Upon seeing Wang Xian, everyone immediately greeted him respectfully. Compared to the Empress, the Dragon King was still the most dignified and powerful in their hearts. "All right, I have something to announce today. The Dragon Palace will be recruiting a new batch of members. Only those with the bloodline of the Water Tribe will be recruited. Soon, the Dragon Palace will be built in the oceans. Those who pass the Dragon Gate of the Dragon Palace will become a disciple of the Dragon Palace." Wang Xian announced plainly to them. As soon as he finished his words, Wang Xian disappeared. "What? The Dragon Palace is expanding its members? Ah, why? Why only the members of the water race are recruited? Why? Hiss, this is good news for the heavenly demons of the water tribe. Once they join the Dragon Palace, it will be like a meteoric rise. Currently, the Dragon Palace only has 400,000 to 500,000 members. The members of the Dragon Palace are all God Kings. Once you join the Dragon Palace, you will definitely become a God King and become an existence that can shake the entire Imperial Star region. Why don't we recruit humans? Why? Ha ha ha, spring is here for the heavenly demons of the water tribe. I want to challenge the Dragon Gate. I want to join the Dragon Palace. At this moment, everyone's eyes widened when they heard Wang Xian's words. Countless humans wailed and countless water tribe were in an uproar. Join the Dragon Palace. What kind of existence was the Dragon Palace now? It had defeated the alliance of the Imperial Court and the Witch Association, and was a top force in the resplendent starry sky. Not long ago, many people were praying for the Dragon Palace to recruit disciples. Now that the Dragon Palace was recruiting disciples, it was a pity that they were only recruiting the water tribe. This made many humans feel indignant and wanted to vomit blood. But to the water tribe, this was good news. Who would have thought that the Dragon Palace would only recruit members of the water tribe? If they could pass the Dragon Gate, it would be like a meteoric rise. The entire Imperial Star region was in an uproar. Countless heavenly demons of the water tribe were rubbing their palms in excitement. It was time for the water tribe to make a comeback. Wang Xian ignored the commotion in the outside world. He was prepared to spread the Dragon Palace throughout the entire Imperial Star region in the next few years. The establishment ceremony of the Dragon and Phoenix God dynasty ended under the attention of the entire Imperial Star region. The topic of the Imperial Court's 11 empresses and the Emperor Star Lady becoming the Empress exploded. Only 10 of the 11 empresses were present. Who was the last one? This caused the entire Imperial Star region to speculate. The Emperor Star Lady possessed the strength of a Ninth Order God King, which also shook the entire Imperial Star region. This time, the most exciting thing was the Dragon Palace's recruitment of members. This became the regret of the humans and the spring of the water tribe. A few days after the establishment ceremony of the Dragon and Phoenix God dynasty, something happened that made the people of the Imperial Star domain speechless. The Emperor Star Lady, the Empress of the Dragon and Phoenix God dynasty, was going to hold a concert on the Dragon Island. An Empress holding a concert? A Ninth Order Immortal King holding a concert? The people of the Imperial Star region didn't know what to say. But of course they were fighting for the tickets to the concert. Moreover, there was news that another empress would be singing at the concert. This entertainment for the whole nation. They had to finish watching the empress concert even if they had to kneel. Xiao Xian, do you want to go to the concert of me and the Star Lady? Inside the Dragon Palace, Tang Yinxian held Wang Xian's arm and asked with a smile. Sure, I'll go and have a look. When Wang Xian heard that they were going to perform, he was speechless. But now that the Imperial Star region had calmed down, it would be nice to go and have a look at their concert. After all, he was still a kid. In the Imperial Star region, Tang Yinxian and the girls were all kids. Wang Xian wasn't even 40 years old. In the Imperial Star region, he was just a slightly older baby. After all, the short-lived ones in the Imperial Star region could live for thousands, or even tens of thousands of years. 40 years old was equivalent to a 4-year-old kindergarten kid on Earth. Still a kid. Great, I'll reserve the best spot for you. Tang Yinxian said with a smile. Wang Xian patted her head and nodded with a smile. Wang. At this moment, a trembling sound came from a corner of the Dragon Palace. This tremble shook the entire Dragon Palace. Wang Xian was taken aback. He looked over and flew over. Damn, old man Skyarray, what the hell are you doing? When Wang Xian flew over, Yamada Devil Fiend had already rushed over and shouted at a palace in front. Chapter 28. Dragon King. Dragon King. When Wang Xian flew over, the Yaki Devil Fiend and the rest immediately shouted. Tianjun, who came out of the palace, bowed and shouted. Tianjin, what's going on? Wang Xian asked Tianjin curiously. The commotion just now could shake the entire dragon palace. This wasn't something an ordinary force could achieve. Dragon King. It's the mark of the Venerable One that triggered the unbeginning sacred wings. Tianjin said with a bitter smile. Oh, unbeginning sacred wings? What have you figured out? Wang Xian raised an eyebrow and asked immediately. He had figured out the mark of the Venerable One. It was the skin of an existence above the Emperor God level. As for the unbeginning sacred wings, he hadn't figured it out. But based on his guess, it should be the bones of a powerful expert in the universe. As for how strong that expert was, he didn't know. But he was sure that he was much stronger than the owner of the mark of the Venerable One. The reason why he didn't die completely was because of the unbeginning sacred wings. Not yet. I placed the mark of the Venerable One on the unbeginning sacred wings, and wanted to integrate it. In the end, I triggered a force from the unbeginning sacred wings, and broke the mark of the Venerable One. Tianjin said awkwardly. Gosh, old man Tianjin. The mark of the Venerable One is a treasure comparable to an emperor god. How could you break it just like that? Orochi widened his eyes and asked. Ahem, it's not really broken. I can repair it, and use it as the base of an array. That way, I can go against a guy like you. Tianjin glanced at him, and said with dissatisfaction. Have you figured out anything useful? Wang Xian asked curiously. Not for the time being. However, I can confirm that the level of the unbeginning sacred wings is very, very high. Furthermore, I discovered that the dragon souls of your two avatars are currently fusing with the unbeginning sacred wings. Once the fusion is complete, something unexpected might happen. Tianjin said with flickering eyes. Wang Xian could sense that the two dragon souls of his wind and thunder avatars were integrating with the unbeginning sacred wings. Old man Tianjin, you discovered that the unbeginning sacred wings is integrating with the dragon souls of the Dragon King. Why are you still experimenting with the mark of the Venerable One? Orochi asked curiously. I want to test if the mark of the supremacy and the unbeginning sacred wings are one. The heavenly array replied. The mark of the Venerable One is the treasure of the Witchcraft Association. I already knew about this. This treasure was obtained from Desolation 6 directions. As for the unbeginning sacred wings, I obtained it from Desolation 6 directions, so I decided to test it out. As he spoke, he took out the mark of a venerable. A tear appeared on the blood-red cloth. What kind of place is 8 desolations and 6 directions? This was not the first time Wang Xian had heard of this term. In the past, he had thought it was just a term. On Earth, the 8 directions referred to the east, west, south, north, southeast, northeast, southwest, and northwest. The 6 directions were up, down, east, west, north, and south. The 8 desolations and 6 directions was also known as the universe. Obviously, in this dazzling starry sky, the 8 desolations and 6 directions was a place. Dragon King. The 8 desolations and 6 directions are located in the east of the dazzling starry sky. There is a cosmic void there. No one knows how big that place is. However, we only know that the 8 desolations and 6 directions might be related to the myriad races in the center of the universe. Perhaps at the end of the 8 desolations and 6 directions is the center of the universe, where the myriad races live. Heavenly Array said solemnly. The 8 desolations and 6 directions was a unique and powerful place. Over there were all sorts of things in the 8 directions of east, west, south, north, southeast, northeast, southwest, northwest, up and down, east, west, north, and south. It was unlike the Dragon Island. On the Dragon Island, there might be an endless void in the sky and nothing else. However, in the 8 desolations and 6 directions, there might be a sky river in the sky above a humongous island. On the bottom right of a sky river, there might be a star. It was a very complicated starry sky region. Within it, there might be terrifying existences and great opportunities. The reason why he was known as the sweeping 8 desolations and 6 directions back then was just because other experts were flattering him. In fact, he might not even have explored 1/10 of the 8 desolations and 6 directions. The reason why he had such a nickname was because he had fought against more than a dozen emperor gods alone. and was known as the sweeping 8 desolations and 6 directions. The center of the universe, where the myriad races live. Yamada no Orochi and Devil Fiend were astonished at the sight. Yes, no one knows how big the universe we are in. Even we don't know where the center of the universe is. However, there are clear historical records that the center of the universe exists. That's the place where the myriad races live. It's said that there's also a continent there called the Heavens Creation Chaotic Continent. Since the Dragon King has inherited the legacy of the Divine Dragon, you should know something about it. The Divine Dragon tribe is also one of the myriad races. We belong to the pinnacle race. Heavenly Array nodded and said, "That's right. In the records of the legacy of the Divine Dragon, there's a center in the universe where the myriad races live and countless living beings fight for supremacy. The Divine Dragon tribe is just one of the races. There are several existences that are comparable to the Divine Dragon tribe." Wang Xian nodded. The Divine Dragon tribe was not the only top tribe. The Phoenix tribe, the Divine Tiger tribe, the Black Tortoise tribe, the Elf tribe, the Wizard tribe, the Skeleton tribe, and many others had tribes that were not weaker than the Divine Dragon tribe. However, the current Divine Dragon tribe was no longer the Divine Dragon tribe of the past. The current Divine Dragon tribe had completely declined. However, their potential had increased tremendously because of the integration of the Divine Dragon tribe and the Insect tribe, because of the Divine Dragon system. In that place where the myriad races live, there aren't just the myriad races. There are also unique and powerful experts and even inborn life forms. Wang Xian added as he recalled some information about the legacy of the Divine Dragon. There were galactic giant beasts that were strong enough to defy the natural order. There were ancient god Kuan Breeder, and so on that the myriad races feared. Of course, the ancient god Kuan Breeder should have been extinct in the center of the universe. However, based on some information that Wang Xian had obtained, the Divine Dragon tribe might not have been completely extinct. The destruction of the Divine Dragon tribe was the death of the purebred Divine Dragons. Those creatures with the Divine Dragon bloodline didn't perish. Under the circumstances of great opportunities, those creatures with the Divine Dragon bloodline could achieve atavism and become a true Divine Dragon. As for whether the Divine Dragon tribe still existed in the center of the universe, Wang Xian had no idea. Old Man Heavenly Array, are there many treasures in the 8 desolations? Orochi's eyes lit up as he asked. There are many, but it's also very dangerous. Some people speculate that the 8 desolations is an ancient battlefield, a battlefield of ancient races. There are dangers and great opportunities in it. At least 80% of the Emperor gods in the resplendent starry sky made breakthroughs there. Heavenly Array nodded his head heavily and said. Chapter 28-29. 80% of the god emperors are born in the 8 desolations and 6 directions. Doesn't this mean that there are many experts there? Orochi clicked his tongue and said in surprise. 80% of the god emperors came from the 8 desolations and 6 directions. This meant that there might be many experts there. The 8 desolation and 6 mergents are not within the 7 major regions, but there are a large number of experts gathered there, especially god kings whose lifespans have reached the end of their lifespans. Many god kings are prepared to enter there and take a gamble. Whether they live or die is completely up to luck. It's also because there are more experts with this mentality that there are more breakthroughs. The number of experts gathered in the 8 desolations and 6 directions is no less than the number of experts in a domain. Moreover, it's best to keep a low profile there. Otherwise, many people who are nearing the end of their lifespans won't care about your status. Plus, there should be quite a number of emperor gods in 8 desolation and 6 directions. In the 7 regions, there are about 120 known emperor gods. In 8 desolation and 6 directions, there should be 20 to 30. Tianjun continued his introduction. Wang Xian and the rest nodded their heads slightly. When the Dragon Palace is completely stabilized, I'll go there to take a look, said Wang Xian. Dragon King, this unbeginning sacred wings is for you. Perhaps it won't be long before the unbeginning sacred wings completely fuses with the dragon soul. Tianjun passed the unbeginning sacred wings to Wang Xian. Wang Xian took it over and looked at the bone wings that were as dazzling as jade. At this moment, there was a slight change in the bone wings. There was wind and lightning energy revolving on them. He looked at it for a while, then put it away. Over the next few days, Wang Xian attended the concert of the Emperor Star Maiden and Yin Xian. After which, he began to build the Dragon Palace in the ocean of the Imperial Star Domain. After the establishment of the Dragon Palace, it began to recruit members. A celebration of the Water Tribe began. All the Water Tribe in the Imperial Star region went crazy. They all came to the Dragon Palace to try the Dragon Gate. However, it was extremely difficult to break through the Dragon Gate. There were only a few who could enter. However, the members of the Water Tribe who had passed the Dragon's Gate all revealed expressions of extreme excitement. The number of members in Dragon Palace was also increasing rapidly. In just 1 month, the number had increased by more than 200,000. As for the members who joined the Dragon Palace, the weaker ones would immediately have their strength enhanced. With the Dragon Palace's current resources, it could increase the number of God Kings by 2,000 every day. That would be 20,000 in 10 days. The members who joined could also keep up with the pace of Dragon Palace quickly. As the days passed, the Imperial Star region gradually stabilized. The Dragon Phoenix God Dynasty was in charge of most of the Imperial Star region. In the beginning, the people were still a little worried about the Empress's policies, but they later supported them. With the Dragon Phoenix God Dynasty's current policies, it was at least much better than when the Imperial Court was in charge. This was because when the Imperial Court was in charge, the Imperial Court disciples had many privileges. Even if the Imperial Court God King experts wanted to kill someone, they could just kill that person. But now, no one dared to casually kill. Once someone killed someone, even a God King would be punished. Everything became fair. After the Imperial Star Domain stabilized, the girls were not too busy. Hence, they dragged Wang Xian along for a vacation. The entire Imperial Star region was extremely vast. There were countless planets and all sorts of sceneries and delicacies. This made all the girls very excited. The group started to tour the Imperial Star region. This tour lasted for 5 years. Buzz buzz buzz. Wang Xian and a group of girls were at the peak of a snowy mountain. All of a sudden, Wang Xian sensed an item in his mother nest vibrating. Waves of energy were being emitted from it. He was slightly shocked and his mind moved. What's wrong, Xiaoxian? The group of girls looked at him and asked in surprise. In front of them, there were steaming hot delicacies. Buzz! Wang Xian did not answer them. He waved his arm and stared ahead with flickering eyes. The unbeginning sacred wings appeared in front of him. Compared to before, the unbeginning sacred wings had undergone a huge change. The unbeginning sacred wings that used to radiate a jade-like glow had changed drastically. Green and purple light fused together, and the sound of wind and thunder blended together. On the entire bone wing of the unbeginning sacred wings, there were wind divine dragons with wings and thunder divine dragons with dense thunder and lightning entwined around them. The two types of divine dragons looked very small, but they were very dazzling. Gradually, the wind and thunder attributes separated, and the two divine dragons came to the two bone wings respectively. One divine dragon occupied one bone wing. Buzz! At this time, the heads of the two divine dragons came to the protruding bone in the middle of the unbeginning sacred wings. The two heads gradually fused. They formed a dragon head that was half wind and half thunder attributes. This is Xiaoxian. Has the unbeginning sacred wings completely fused? At the side, a group of girls asked in surprise. Wang Xian nodded his head slightly at the side. He opened his arms with flickering eyes. The clothes on his upper body disappeared instantly, revealing a flawless body. The unbeginning sacred wings flapped slightly and came to his back. The protruding bone in the middle connected to his back and became a bone wing. Buzz! In the next moment, a message entered his mind, which made Wang Xian squint his eyes. This wing is so cool. Yes, it's cool, but it's mainly because Xiaoxian is too cool. Hee. This pair of wings seems to be lacking something. Oh right, it's lacking feathers. The girls at the side looked at the wings on Wang Xian's back curiously and commented with a smile. Yes, it's lacking feathers. Wang Xian received the message in his mind, and his eyes shone brightly. It's really lacking feathers? Guan Shuqing and the girls asked curiously. Yes, this unbeginning sacred wings is a very powerful and horrifying treasure. Perhaps it's an opportunity for me to evolve again, Wang Xian said with sparkling eyes. Evolve again? The group of girls was taken aback. The unbeginning sacred wings is a wind and thunder attribute treasure. It can allow living beings to possess the wind and thunder attribute. Once I can get the complete unbeginning sacred wings, I'll have a chance to evolve into a 9-colored divine dragon with 9 attributes. The only divine dragon with all attributes in the history of the divine dragon tribe, Wang Xian said with a burning gaze. Wang Xian had no idea how powerful a divine dragon with 9 attributes would be. Perhaps it could be invincible in the universe. Xiao Xian, how can you evolve into a 9-colored divine dragon? The group of girls asked hurriedly. This unbeginning sacred wings isn't complete. It's missing the wind and thunder feather. This isn't a special feather, but a feather formed from the wind and thunder origin. It was originally one with the unbeginning sacred wings, but it's gone now. According to the information on the unbeginning sacred wings, the wind attribute feather is in Feng Lin. As for the thunder attribute feather, I don't know where it is. As Wang Xian spoke, he was deep in thought. Wang Xian had seen Feng Lin in a document before. He felt a little familiar. Chapter 28:30. Let's go, beautiful goddesses. Let's go back. Wang Xian made up his mind as he spoke to the girls with a smile. Did he go back? All right, I've been out for 5 years. Although I've only toured a small part of the Imperial Star region, it's already been a long time. The girls nodded and had no objections. After playing for 5 whole years, they were already very satisfied. Then let's go back directly. As Wang Xian spoke to them, his figure gradually disappeared. Guan Shuqing and the other girls also disappeared immediately. Prime Minister Turtle, call the heavenly array over. Wang Xian arrived at the Dragon Palace and immediately informed Prime Minister Turtle. It's Dragon King. Prime Minister Turtle immediately replied. Greetings, Dragon King. Soon, Prime Minister Turtle arrived with the Heavenly Formation. Heavenly Formation? Do you know about Feng Lin and the 8 Desolate Continent? Wang Xian asked the Heaven Array directly. Feng Lin? Dragon King, the Feng Lin you mentioned should be the Windless Forest. In the beginning, it was called Feng Lin, but later on, others preferred to call it the Windless Forest. There is no sound of the wind in the windless forest, no howling of the wind, but there are terrifying wind-attributed laws. These wind-attributed laws condensed into tangible objects are extremely terrifying. Dragon King, why are you asking about the windless forest? Tianjin asked in confusion. Windless forest? The fusion between the unbeginning sacred wings and the dragon soul has ended. Right now, the unbeginning sacred wings are not complete. They lack the main feathers. Without the feathers, the unbeginning sacred wings won't be very useful, said Wang Xian. Have they fused? A look of surprise appeared on Tianjin's face, and then he asked, Dragon King, you mean the feather is in the windless forest? One of the feathers is located in the windless forest. Wang Xian nodded his head. Then Dragon King, are we going to the 8 wilderness continent? Tianjin's eyes lit up as he said, with the resources that the Dragon Palace currently had, it would be extremely difficult for their emperor-level fighting power to continue to improve. According to his cultivation speed, it would take at least tens of thousands of years for him to recover to his peak. This made him, who had tried to improve quickly, feel slightly dissatisfied. The vast wilderness continent was a place where they could improve quickly. Yes, I'm going there. Wang Xian nodded and asked, how's the defense on the Dragon Island? Dragon King, after several years of improvement, its defensive power has increased several times. Even if we are not here, it can still hold on for some time. Just leave it to Wish Dragon. Tianjin said with a smile. Currently, the members of the Dragon Palace had reached 1 million. With the addition of the devouring dragons, the number would reach about 1.3 million. The newly joined members were all transformed into dragon species, and entered the various combat divisions. Among them, the number of dragon shamans had increased by 50,000. 50,000 which dragons followed the sky formation to cultivate their array formations for the past 5 years. In the blink of an eye, all the members of the Dragon Palace, including the newly joined members, had reached the Deity King realm. Furthermore, the weakest among them had the combat power of a third-order Undying God King. About 1.3 million third-order Undying God King realm and above members of the Dragon Palace. This force was much stronger than the previous imperial court. The number of Emperor God experts in the Dragon Palace had not increased since 5 years ago. It wasn't easy for an Emperor God expert to break through just by relying on cultivation. Currently, there were 14 Emperor Gods in Dragon Palace. Xiaolan was a second-order God Emperor realm existence. Tianjin alone could take on a few of them. That's good. Ensure the safety of the Dragon Island. Wang Xian nodded. Dragon King, when are we setting off? Tianjin asked with beaming eyes when he heard Wang Xian's words. Tomorrow. Bring 8-branched devilish fiend and roving demon. Wang Xian said. Yes, Dragon King. Tianjin nodded immediately. Xiao Xian, are we heading out? At this time, a group of girls walked in and asked him. Yeah, let's go to the 8 Desolation continent. Wang Xian nodded. Be careful. The group of girls nodded at him. A day passed quickly. On the second day, Wang Xian, Tianjin, 8-branched devilish fiend, and roving demon hovered above the Dragon Palace. Let's go, Wang Xian said plainly as he looked ahead. It will take at least a year or two to fly from here to the 8 Desolation continent. We can use the teleportation array formation as a transit point, Tianjin said. Lead the way. Wang Xian nodded. To fly to the 8 Desolation continent, they would have to pass through 2 major regions. One was the Sage region, and the other was Tianfa Ancient Sky region. The resplendent starry sky was divided into 7 major regions. Heavenly Witch Domain, Imperial Star Domain, Enchantment Domain, Colored Glaze Domain, Sage region, Mechanic Emperor region, and Tianfa Ancient Sky region. Among these 7 regions, the strongest were the Colored Glaze Domain and Mechanic Emperor region. Colored Glaze Domain had close to 20 Emperor Gods. It was a truly resplendent region for humans. As for Mechanic Emperor region, it belonged to the robots. The entire Mechanic Emperor region was made up of mechanical creatures. They were also living beings, a special kind of metal creatures. Mechanic Emperor region was also an extremely powerful region. It had a mechanical army, mecha battleships, and many mechanical weapons that could rival Emperor Gods. This time, they would have to pass through the Sage region and Tianfa Ancient Sky region to reach the 8 Desolation continent. The strength of the Sage region and Tianfa Ancient Sky region was not too strong. Wang Xian, and the group teleported to the east through the teleportation array. After a few days, they were teleported to the border of the Imperial Star Domain. If we continue flying forward for another 10 days, we will almost reach the Sage region. We will enter the Sage region through the teleportation array. Looking at the boundless void in front of them, Tianjin said. Let's go, Wang Xian. And the group moved and appeared in the void in an instant. Rumble. In the next moment, they were wrapped in brilliance. Like dazzling stars, they shuttled through the void at high speed. Their speed was so fast that their bodies directly entered the cracks in the void. In the cracks in the void, their speed was even more terrifying. It was as though they were teleporting continuously. Even so, they still flew for a full 10 days in the vast void. After 10 days, they entered the Sage region. The situation in the Sage region was similar to the Imperial Star Domain. There were all kinds of planets with life, technology, and cultivation. There were also planets with demonic beasts. Enter a developed planet and find the map. As Tianjin spoke, he scanned the surroundings and soon locked onto a flourishing planet. Wang Xian and the rest made a move and landed in a slightly luxurious manner. Soon, Wang Xian and the group obtained something similar to an intelligent brain and searched for routes. Let's go. Without any delay, they arrived at the teleportation array and disappeared. With their strength, no one would notice them. Chapter 2831. God Emperor Travels. Punishing Evils Avoids Dragon King. Tianfa Ancient Heaven region is right ahead. After traveling for half a month in the sacred region, Wang Xian and the group arrived at Tianfa Ancient Heaven region. Tianjin glanced at the void in front of him and said, Tianfa Ancient Heaven region is the most chaotic among the 7 major regions. There are 7 pinnacle forces in the 7 major regions. However, there is no such force in Tianfa Ancient Heaven region. There are many powerful forces in the Tianfa Ancient Heaven region, and all of them have God Emperor Realm experts. However, these forces only have one God Emperor Realm expert. Moreover, they are all First Order God Emperor Realm experts. With only one First Order God Emperor, they can't be considered as a pinnacle force. Moreover, these forces are in a state of chaos. They are divided and wars are endless. The entire star region is in the flames of war. Of course, this was the situation thousands of years ago. As for the situation now, I'm not too sure. Tianjin explained to them. Let's go to a planet and ask. Wang Xian nodded his head and said, where there was peace, there would be war. Not every star region was peaceful. Tianfa Ancient Heaven region had not produced a king yet. Hence, the flames of war were endless. After flying for 5 days, the group found a planet with life. The few of them entered the planet and checked out the situation. It's still in a state of chaos. It will be difficult to use the teleportation formation to pass through here. Wang Xian shook his head slightly as he read the report from a middle-aged man. I guess we'll have to spend 1 to 2 months in Tianfa Ancient Heaven region. Tianjin shook his head. If we can use the teleportation formation, we'll use it. If not, we'll just fly. Wang Xian said plainly as they continued on their way. That void is the territory of another expert. Without the teleportation formation, we'll have to fly over. After traveling for a month, Wang Xian and the group arrived at the void again. Continue on their way. Dragon King, there seems to be a huge battle in the void ahead. It's quite powerful. After flying for a few hours, they suddenly sensed a majestic aura coming from ahead. The terrifying aura wasn't from an ordinary battle. Hydra's eyes flickered as he stared ahead with curiosity. After flying for 1 to 2 months, they were bored. And for a large-scale battle, there should be God Emperor level experts attacking from afar. Wang Xian's eyes flickered as the Yin-Yang 5 Elements dragon scanned the area ahead. In the void in front of them, there were at least 100 billion people on both sides. There were all kinds of divine weapons, warships and war machines. The battle should have just erupted. Energy surged and the entire void was shrouded in all kinds of energy. There are 2 God Emperors fighting in the sky. Tianjin also looked over and said, TSK, the war in this star field is really tragic. Hundreds of billions of people are fighting chaotically. Won't hundreds of billions of people die on this battlefield? Mo Sha said in surprise. Let's go there directly. Wang Xian's eyes flickered. He had no intention of taking a detour. With a shift of his body, he continued flying forward. TSK, charge forward. The Yamada no demon fiend, who loved to stir up trouble, laughed heartily and said, boom. The 5 of them flew towards the battlefield ahead. The battlefield in front of them was still in a state of eruption, and all of them were long-range attacks. Wang Xian and the group flew over at a terrifying speed, immediately attracting the attention of the forces on both sides. Who is it? How dare you barge into our battlefield? So fast. Who are they? Some pinnacle God King experts noticed Wang Xian and the group. When they looked over, their eyes narrowed. TSK. Make way. Don't disturb us. Yamada no demon fiend laughed heartily. Ha! In the sky above the battlefield, 2 old men filled with murderous aura heard this voice. When they looked over, their eyes flickered with a cold gleam. TSK. Don't fight and kill for no reason. That's not good. Mo Sha looked around and said with a mocking look. As they spoke, Wang Xian and the group had already flown to the center of the battlefield. Courting death. Who are you? A 9th-level Immortal King Realm expert heard Yamada no Demonfian's words. Violent murderous aura surged from him. Judging from the murderous aura in him, He was definitely an expert who had walked out of the sea of corpses. Huh. Any objections? Go and die if you have any. Emo Shah's eyes flashed with black light when he heard the old man's words. With a swing of his arm, a terrifying black ray shot towards the old man. Bam! Before anyone could react, the old man's body exploded. This is God Emperor. It's a God Emperor expert. SSS, could those 5 be God Emperors? At this moment, everyone from the 2 forces was slightly taken aback. Their faces were filled with shock. In the sky, the 2 God Emperors who were fighting across space narrowed their eyes. 5 brothers, we have no intention of offending you. The 2 of them immediately stopped their attacks, cupped their fists, and spoke to Wang Xian and the rest. Rumble. However, Wang Xian ignored them. His body emitted a dazzling radiance, and he disappeared from the center of the battlefield. It's 5 Emperor gods. I wonder which of the 8 major forces they are from. The Dragon Palace was already famous. The 2 God Emperors were shocked when they saw that terrifying speed. They should be heading to 8 desolations in 6 directions. The 2 God Emperors thought to themselves. With that, 5 God Emperors would be able to annihilate their forces. There was still a huge gap between them and the 8 forces in the resplendent starry sky. Tisk, today's battle is over. All disciples retreat. And God Emperor stared coldly at the God Emperor in front of him, swept his gaze below, and ordered, in the future, if I don't have the strength to annihilate you, I won't take action. Warn your subordinates not to stir up trouble. The other God Emperor shouted coldly, gesturing for his disciples to leave. That's it. They were interrupted by those 5 powerful God Emperors. They are truly powerful existences. It's good that they don't fight. We can save a lot of people. All the experts and disciples of the 2 forces were taken aback. Subsequently, they heaved a sigh of relief. They weren't afraid of war, but they didn't want to die either. Wang Xian and the rest didn't know that their arrogant actions had ended a huge battle. Given their strength, they could dominate the entire Tian Fa ancient sky region. Currently, in the ranking of the forces in the resplendent starry sky, the Dragon Palace in the Imperial Star region had become one of the top 3 forces in the resplendent starry sky with their formidable strength. When Wang Xian and the rest set out, all living beings avoided them. Chapter 2832. Hee, this feels great. It's great to have strength. Yamada Serpent laughed heartily. This was one of the few times they had enjoyed flying in the past few months. The strongest in our bedazzling starry sky seems to be a 3rd-order God Emperor. As long as you guys can reach that level, you can do whatever you want in the entire bedazzling starry sky. Tianjin said with a smile. Is that so? Let's go to 8 Desolation now. Who knows, we might be able to reach 3rd-order God Emperor by the time we come back. Hee, by then, we'll be the bosses of the entire bedazzling starry sky. Emo Shah said excitedly. Then I hope you guys can obtain this opportunity. Tianjin said with a faint smile. That's hard to say. Wang Xian and the rest continued flying for half a month as the devilish Orochi and Orochi chattered away. Half a month later, they flew out of Tian Fa ancient heaven region and continued flying forward. We're almost there. After 2 to 3 months of continuous travel, they were finally reaching 8 Desolation. It's right ahead. After flying for an hour, Wang Xian and the rest felt as though they had arrived at another world. They had been flying for 2 to 3 months, passing through 2 major regions. They could be considered to have seen a lot of things, including the starry sky over at the Imperial Star Domain. They all had a unique characteristic. There weren't many things above and below the starry sky. Even if there weren't many. However, the position in front of them gave them a 3-dimensional feeling. From afar, they could see that there was a planet in the sky and a continent below. There might be a void ocean or even flames below. In the depths, there were huge suns suspended in the air. There were all sorts of planets and continents around the suns. This was what it meant by the name, 8 Desolation. He could see a lot of people in front of him. Moreover, they could also see that there were humans living on some planets and continents at the borders. There are quite a lot of people. Emo Shah stared ahead and exclaimed in surprise. 8 Desolation is a place where danger and opportunity coexist. After a long time, there will be more people, and some will advance to the God Emperor realm. In the past, one of the 7 great powers was here in the 8 Desolations in 6 directions. It was called the 8 Desolations. Back then, I was known as the sweeping 8 Desolations in 6 directions. Another reason was that I had a small conflict with the 8 Desolations, and fought with them. Back then, dozens of God Emperors surrounded me and attacked me. I blocked them easily and even defeated them. Hehe. Tianjun smiled faintly with a look of pride on his face. Looks like there aren't many second-order God Emperors among them, ah. Orochi said. Only one. At that time, this old man was already very powerful. Someone like you could easily destroy him. Heavenly Matrix glanced at Yamada no Orochi. He was tricked by his own disciple. Orochi curled his lips and muttered in a low voice. Let's go straight to Windless Forest, said Wang Xian to the sky array with a smile. All right, Dragon King. I'll bring you there. Tianjin nodded. The group of people continued flying forward, entering the 8 Desolation 6 directions. An ancient aura rushed over. Wang Xian scanned the surroundings and sized them up. Flying all the way inside, Zhang Xian felt that it was extremely messy. It was a special star with an incomparably huge starry sky peak, a forest that grew out of thin air, and so on. Everything looked like a mess. It was as if a garden had been smashed and floated in the void. No wonder people guessed that this was the battlefield of the ancient races. Wang Xian mumbled. Windless Forest is located in the abyss. The deeper we go, the more dangerous it gets. There are all sorts of powerful wild beasts in the 8 Desolation 6 directions. There are also some restrictions on some planets. There is even a God Emperor's kingdom floating there. That God Emperor once barged in without permission and died there. I reckon that the owner of the Void God Kingdom was a peak God Emperor in the past. Tianjun explained to them about the 8 Desolation 6 directions. Doesn't that mean that we have a chance to obtain the inheritance within the Void God Kingdom? Demon Fiend asked in surprise. Yes, but you have to know if there is any inheritance in the Void God Kingdom. Perhaps the Void God Kingdom is a graveyard. The owner of the Void God Kingdom did not want anyone to disturb him. Hence, he set up a death trap. Unless you are strong enough, you will definitely die. The Void God Kingdom might be a treasure land for medicinal herb gardens. Grotto heavens and blessed lands exist here. The Windless Forest is also a blessed land. However, it is extremely dangerous. There are tornadoes, typhoons, and hurricanes formed by the laws. The most dangerous thing is the trees. As the Windless Forest, there is no wind blowing or whistling. However, there are countless trees. No one knows how big the Windless Forest is. However, many of the trees in it possess strong offensive capabilities. Given the uniqueness of the Windless Forest, few experts, other than those with wind attributes, would step into it. This is because there are no treasures in it. However, I heard that there is a valley of wind in it. Every time it opens, it will attract many experts. However, I'm not too sure about the details. Tianjun explained in detail. Wang Xian nodded his head slightly. The 5 of them advanced rapidly, while Tianjun explained some things to them. Around them, Wang Xian noticed that there were many places with a large number of people living in them. Most of them were not very strong. They were the citizens of some forces. The 8 Desolation 6 directions covered a huge area. Tianjin flew them for a full 3 days. Dragon King, many areas in front have not been explored. There might be dangers in there. We have to be careful. After 3 days, Tianjin reminded them. Wang Xian and the rest nodded their heads. It's right ahead. Given Wang Xian and the rest's strength, they could easily avoid trouble. After more than 10 hours, they arrived at the front of a forest. Countless green leaves grew densely on the green trees. Their green roots pierced directly into the void, and one could see them clearly. The entire forest was incomparably quiet. There were no signs of living beings except for the green trees. Buzz, buzz, buzz. At this moment, Wang Xian suddenly felt a vibration behind him. A message appeared in his mind. Swoosh. With a thought, the unbeginning sacred wings appeared on his back. From the unbeginning sacred wings, There was something connected by blood in the depths of the forest ahead. I can sense it. It's inside. Wang Xian's eyes lit up. Once the unbeginning sacred wings, integrated with the feathers of the wind attribute, he would also be able to control the wind attribute. At that time, he would be able to demonstrate a trace of the power of the unbeginning sacred wings. Please collect the Invincible Divine Dragon Cultivation System. The Invincible Divine Dragon Cultivation System updates the fastest. Chapter 2833. Sacred Wings and Sacred Feathers Dragon King. Did you sense anything? Tianjun and the rest immediately asked Wang Xian when they saw the unbeginning sacred wings appearing behind Wang Xian. Seeing the unbeginning sacred wings behind Wang Xian, Tianjun and the rest immediately asked Wang Xian. Wang Xian squinted his eyes and looked inside. Dragon King, the windless forest is extremely dangerous. Even emperor gods should not be underestimated. The windless forest seems peaceful, but there's something terrifying about it. Those who enter can't create any wind. Once there is wind, the trees with wind attributes will attack. But as long as something enters, unless it's illusory, it will create wind. In other words, once you enter, you will be attacked by the trees. The stronger the wind, the more trees will be attacked. But as long as something enters, unless it's illusory, it will create wind. In other words, once you enter, you will be attacked by the trees inside. The stronger the wind, the more trees will be attacked. Some people say that this is the sacred land of the ancient races with wind attributes. Tianjun reminded. Wang Xian nodded his head slightly. With a swift move he flew inside. Swish swish swish. Yamada no Demonsha and the others followed closely behind. Swish swish swish. Swish swish swish. When they first entered the windless forest, the leaves of the surrounding trees trembled slightly, making rustling sounds as if there was a gust of wind blowing past. In the next moment, countless leaves from the trees attacked them directly. The trees in the windless forest were at least tens of thousands of meters tall. Each tree had millions of leaves. Countless densely packed leaves attacked, directly covering them. TSK, how can such a small attack stop us? Masha snorted coldly. He used his dark attribute to protect himself. When the leaves landed on them, they were neutralized. At this time Wang Xian, who was at the side, exclaimed. He looked around and found that there were no leaves attacking him at all. Wang Xian sensed the unbeginning sacred wings behind him and thought of a unique feature of the unbeginning sacred wings. The unbeginning sacred wings were in his body and could allow him to move without any resistance in water and energy tides. However, this characteristic was of little value to Wang Xian. He was a divine dragon and possessed 7 attributes, so he could adapt to most environments. A Dragon King, why aren't you attacked? Could it be because of the unbeginning sacred wings? Tianjun looked over and asked in surprise. That should be the case. Wang Xian nodded his head and flew straight ahead. The surrounding branches and leaves still didn't attack him. He hesitated for a moment before waving his arm. A wave of energy shot towards a tree at the side. Walala. So. In the next instant, branches and leaves attacked Wang Xian. Wang Xian shook his body and withstood the attack of the leaves. After a round of attacks, the surrounding attacks stopped. It seems that if I take action, I will still be attacked. Wang Xian murmured. Bam bam bam. Behind them, Sky Array Orochi and the others flew over. The surrounding branches and leaves kept attacking them. The attack power of these leaves could threaten a First-Order God King Realm Master. But to them, even if they didn't defend themselves, they wouldn't be able to hurt them. You guys go somewhere else. I'll look for it here. Seeing that they were constantly being attacked, Wang Xian hesitated for a moment before speaking. Dragon King, it's dangerous here. It's better for us to stay by your side. Tianjun and the others quickly said. In this place, I might not be able to encounter any danger even if all of you are in danger. You guys can leave. With the no beginning sacred wings, there shouldn't be any problems. Once I find sacred wings and sacred feather, I will contact you guys. Wang Xian said straightforwardly. Sky Array Orochi and the others exchanged glances and nodded their heads slowly. Dragon King, You must be careful. Don't worry, Wang Xian replied. Following the senses of the no-beginning sacred wings, he flew inside immediately. With the no-beginning sacred wings, Wang Xian would not be attacked. As long as he was careful not to be touched by these branches, he would be fine. In comparison, it was much easier than having Sky Array Orochi and the others by his side. Let's go out. I'll bring you guys to hunt for treasures. Seeing Wang Xian disappearing rapidly, Sky Array Orochi and the others said, Hee, do you know where to find treasures? Devilish Orochi's eyes lit up as he asked immediately. I know more than you guys. Just follow me. Sky Array Orochi replied plainly. The four of them turned and left the windless forest. There are treasures. On the other side, after flying for 2 hours, Wang Xian stared at a tree in front of him with a shocked expression. This should be the wind jade that Sky Array mentioned. It looks like a jade, and is formed by pure wind attribute laws. It has special abilities, and is extremely beneficial to wind attribute cultivators. Wang Xian mumbled to himself. Looking at the wind jade growing on the tree, he moved in front of it. Reaching out, Wang Xian plucked the wind jade. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. The moment the wind jade was plucked off, razor-sharp leaves flew towards Wang Xian. Millions of densely packed leaves landed on him instantly. It seems like the attacking power of the trees here is higher. They can already threaten a second-order Undying God King. Wang Xian calculated as he sensed the attacks landing on him. Looking at the wind jade with his palm, he hesitated for a moment before placing it in front of his chest. The trees in the windless forest were classified as plants. He wanted to see if this thing had any special response to the progenitor tree. Wang. Under his probing, there was indeed some response. However, this response did not come from the progenitor tree, but from the immortal slaying gourd on the progenitor tree. The immortal slaying gourd was a treasure that Wang Xian had obtained in the imperial court. It was indeed a supreme treasure. However, there were a few hundred immortal slaying swords in the immortal slaying gourd that could rival a pinnacle god king, but none of them could threaten a god emperor. Based on Wang Xian's guess, the immortal slaying gourd could only reach that level after the dragon palace and progenitor tree evolved. The current immortal slaying gourd was of little value. Is this wind jade useful to the immortal slaying gourd? Wang Xian raised an eyebrow. With a thought, the immortal slaying gourd appeared in his hand. Gradually, the wind jade was absorbed by the immortal slaying gourd. In less than 2 seconds, the wind jade was completely absorbed. However, Wang Xian did not sense any changes in the immortal slaying gourd. Perhaps this wind jade can help the immortal slaying gourd evolve? Wang Xian guessed as he continued to fly deeper into the forest. Under the guidance of the unbeginning sacred wings and sacred feather should be in the depths of the windless forest. As he flew, he encountered many wind jades along the way. All of them were plucked for the immortal slaying gourd to absorb. The deeper he went, the stronger the attacks of the leaves. Towards the end, the terrifying attacks of the wind element leaves could threaten a 9th-order God King realm expert. I'm close. 3 days later, Wang Xian stopped and stared ahead. The area in front of him had changed. It was no longer a dense forest but a huge mountain peak. Chapter 2834. Huge mountains stood on both sides, each of which was at least 1,000,000 kilometers tall. Above the mountains were densely packed trees. In the middle was a canyon with an entrance. After passing through this canyon that is more than 1,000,000,000 kilometers long, it should be the Windless Forest Valley, the core of the entire Windless Forest. It is said that the core of the Windless Forest is extremely dangerous. Even god emperors might perish in there. Wang Xian stood in front of the mountains, gazing inside as he mumbled to himself. Rumble, rumble, rumble. Suddenly, law tornadoes instantly condensed at the entrance in front of them, emitting whistling sounds as they spun towards the interior of the canyon. Wang Xian narrowed his eyes at the horrifying aura, and his face was filled with astonishment. These terrifying tornadoes could even threaten an god emperor. He stood quietly at the entrance of the canyon. The entire canyon was chaotic and irregular. From time to time, terrifying tornadoes, hurricanes, typhoons, occasionally, wind spears and wind blades would pass through. Seems like I have to force my way through. Wang Xian frowned slightly. He unfurled his unbeginning sacred wings and flew towards the inside in a flash. With his God Emperor level strength, coupled with the unbeginning saint wings, he only needed 10 seconds to traverse the entire canyon. Wang Xian's speed was fast, and he was fully focused on sensing his surroundings. Perhaps he was luckier, as he flew forward with ease. I'm at the entrance of the windless forest valley. Wang Xian was delighted. At the same time, the unbeginning saint wings behind him trembled, and a strong feeling came from above. Sacred Feather was inside. Wang. Everything is going well. After successfully traversing the canyon, Wang Xian revealed a smile as he looked ahead. It was a valley, an unusually huge valley. The valley was still filled with trees, but the trees here were bigger, taller, and more luxuriant. Wang Xian swept his gaze across and saw more than a dozen wind jades. The wind jades were the size of a human head, and they contained terrifying energy. At the entrance, the wind jades that Wang Xian obtained were comparable to level 9 Immortal King Supreme treasures. The wind jades here were at least Pinnacle God King realm. Moreover, he saw a wind jade in the form of a bird, with 2 wings the size of a normal fan. At a glance, it looked like a holy object. Wang Xian squinted his eyes as they flickered. However, he didn't move. His yin-yang 5 elements dragon eyes were still surveying his surroundings. The wings of the unbeginning sacred wings behind him trembled slightly. Found it. At this moment, Wang Xian locked onto a tree tens of millions of kilometers away. This tree was somewhat different from the surrounding trees. Its leaves were the same as ordinary leaves. However, the leaves of this tree were in the shape of feathers. The root of the tree was a feather, a green feather. This feather was a little illusory and did not seem real. However, Wang Xian could sense a strong attraction force from it. This caused his eyes to burn with passion. Found it, but why is there only one feather? Is there only one? Or is there only one here? Wang Xian was puzzled. He looked around and flew forward. I'll keep these wind jades first. Given the grade of these trees, they shouldn't be able to hurt me. Wang Xian murmured. With a swift move, he came before a wind jade. He extended his arm and grabbed it. Buzz! So. The moment he plucked it off, countless leaves swarmed towards Wang Xian. Dragon scales appeared on the surface of Wang Xian's body and easily withstood the attacks of the leaves. After a round of attacks, the leaves stopped. Wang Xian was delighted. I'm going to be rich. His eyes lit up. The value of the wind jade in his hand was comparable to a pinnacle undying God King treasure. This piece of wind jade could be exchanged for an additional pinnacle God King expert in the Dragon Palace. However, he wasn't going to sell it. Instead, he wanted the immortal slaying gourd to absorb it. With a swift move, he came before the second wind jade and did the same thing. Wang Xian kept it into his storage. Subsequently, he kept the wind jades one by one. This is the last one in this area. However, the attack of this tree should be able to threaten me. Wang Xian looked at the bird-shaped wind jade and revealed a hesitant look. He flew over and covered himself with dragon scales. The 5 elements rotated and waves of earthy yellow energy covered his body. Pa! Extending his hand, Wang Xian held the bird-shaped wind jade in his hand. Whoosh! In the next instant, countless leaves swarmed towards Wang Xian in an instant. It wasn't that he didn't want to dodge, but the attack of the leaves didn't give him any time to dodge. The speed of the wind was the fastest among the 9 attributes. Bam bam bam. Continuous crashing sounds could be heard as Wang Xian's body was constantly retreating. Puffed! A mouthful of blood was spat out. The dragon scales on Wang Xian's body crumbled bit by bit and blood gushed out. His expression changed drastically as he tried to stop himself from crashing into other trees. Puffed! After a round of attacks, he spat out another mouthful of blood as his expression turned grave. Just to get this wind jade, he had to endure such a strong attack. If he could get his hands on the sacred feather, wouldn't the attack be even more terrifying? This is also because of the unbeginning sacred wings. If I don't touch the trees will only attack once. If it were someone else, even if it were an emperor god, they would have fallen here when faced with the densely packed trees. As Wang Xian spoke, His expression changed constantly as his gaze fell on the sacred feather. Release my strongest defense and withstand a blow. I shouldn't die, but I'll be severely injured. Let's go for it. Wang Xian's eyes were filled with determination. After getting his hands on this sacred feather, his strength might improve tremendously. After recovering from his injuries, Wang Xian approached the tree carefully. If it were anyone else, they wouldn't be able to avoid the lack of wind while walking or flying here. If there was wind, they would be subjected to terrifying attacks. When he came to the location of the sacred feather, Wang Xian sized up the feather and extended his arm slowly. His arm turned into a miniature dragon claw. Ka! When Wang Xian grabbed the sacred feather, he immediately held it in his hand. Whoosh! At this moment, waves of surging energy surged from Wang Xian's body to protect his body. However, in the next instant his expression changed. This time, it wasn't the leaves that attacked him. Instead, it was the tree branches. When the tree branches gathered together, they were like a huge palm leaf fan. With the terrifying power of the law of wind attribute, they attacked Wang Xian. Bam! Ka ka ka! A horrifying attack landed on Wang Xian. The strong wind force sent his body flying backward. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support. And don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.